Welcome everyone to one of our sessions for the next 10 minutes or so, hosted by myself, Alex Williams, and Jamie Abrahams, Director of the User Group. For this session, we are going to go through how the integration between Partner from Windows and Adobe Sign can help you as a business during this current climate. As we all know, with everybody sort of more working from home, that interaction with our clients through either post, etc., has challenges with it. So using Adobe Sign can mean that we can get all those important documents that we need signing to our clients efficiently and effectively, whilst maintaining that high level of customer service. So I shall hand over to Jamie.
Hello, everybody. So what I wanted to do was initially is try and not reinvent the wheel on this. There are some guidance notes and things like that already on the client portal. So firstly, we'll link these all up later. The idea of this webinar is that we will give people a load of content and downloads and free templates and things like that to actually try this out by the end of it. So you'll be able to access all this stuff and try it a lot easier. So there's a very good 20-minute guide on PDF Manager Wizard and Adobe eSign integration and how that actually works from a user perspective and what happens when it goes to the client. So I don't intend to go over that again. What I'm interested in trying to explain are some of the things that I had to consider and deal with when we implemented it in our business, which are probably some of the more subtle points that are not in some of the user guides. So have a look at this link by all means and try the templates. So first of all, I'm going to take you into a copy of Partner and show you some of the templates that we've already run through. So I'm going to quickly run through one PDF signing exercise, just so you can see what that actually looks like. So I've already prepared my client care letter, like so. As you can see, it's a regular letter. We're using some of the coding in here. So this is actually putting the signature in, which is a JPEG format. What you'll notice on some of these templates is, and it's a good technique, is that we've tried to use tables, which is a bit of a web design trick. And that's where we add all the code in. So the only hint you get of this being a different kind of template is it's got something that picks up on the spell checker. So if we highlight that, and I change the coloring of it, oops, you'll see that that's where the coding is, and it's no different. It's no different on the templates that we use in Adobe eSign. So the first thing that occurred to me when I tried to create my first template in eSign was that I was going to have to create two versions of everything. So I'd have to create a client care letter for regular use, printing on headed paper, etc., for people to use traditionally, signing with a pen. And then I'd have to produce a version for electronic signing. By the time I'd built the first couple, I realized that I could actually combine the two together by using signature panels. So to keep things neat, to keep the coding in the right places, I tend to put things into tables because it means that it doesn't change the formatting if certain entries in there are quite long. And again, if I highlight this and change, keep my pick the wrong one. What you're actually looking at here in the red are a load of, in the curly brackets, a load of Adobe, what they call text tags. So Adobe text tags are something you can get quite a lot of information about. I'm trying to find where they go now. Just get the right screen, sorry. So these are guides on Adobe text tags, and you can see that they use a particular format here, which you can embed in your documents. Now there's quite a lot of them, which is why we'll give you some samples of templates which we think will be quite useful for you. So the document I've got here, I'm just going to revert those and take the coloration out. We put the coding in and then we just turn that text white, and that's where you can see them. So when you print them on a piece of paper, there's no entries in there. That's where you can use them for both wet signing and you can use them for free signing as well. I'll come out of that. So when I when I run this through, and I put it through PDF Manager Wizard, and I'm going to whiz through this quite quickly because there's another video on this as well. Send for signature. I'm going to look up my user. Put my stationery on. That's very quickly going to produce my PDF, send it through eSign. And create my agreement. So now you can see my agreement's been created. It's got the little clock next to it. Hopefully that's not too small. Clean this screen up a bit. And you can see that it's just alerted me to the fact that you've received a piece of documentation. So I'm just going to drop out of Terminal Server into a Gmail account that I'll set up. So this Gmail account is representing what the client will get. So the client receives from Jamie Abrahams, the fee earner, this type of communication, and they can then review and sign. Skip down to the bottom of the document, and in here I've just done it for one signatory. I'm just going to type in here. It enters the name as well as you've typed it in, dates it in through there. Click to sign. Then I'm finished. Once I've finished, the client then gets a copy of that completed document under the firm's name. So that comes from the firm's name account. So first one you get from the fee earner, the second one when it's all completed you'll actually get from there, and then they have their own copy of the agreement. If we go back in partner, hopefully, there we go. So we've now got a second entry which Partner Automation Server has automatically put into the system. And then that is the completed agreement. Oops. Where's the sign?
I think you got to click the second one, Jamie, because that'll be your first one.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got. It's because it's very small on this screen.
Yeah.
There we go.
To get your specs out.
Yeah. Yep. There we go. So that's now filled that all in. So if I just revert back to how that's actually happened, is that if I go back to this Word document and open. Try and find the right one. Is that running that process has effectively activated just these tags here. So it's run the tag SIG-ES signer 1, and Adobe tends to use a format of where it just incrementally increases them. So depending on the amount of people that you would need to sign, you can have signer 1, signer 2, etc., going like that. If you look at the other YouTube video that we're going to link to this, it can actually show you how you can set the order of those signatures as to whether you want them to go together or in groups and things like that. So Adobe eSign is quite sophisticated in terms of being able to set who signs what and when, whether they sign together, separately, in a particular running order, and loop the transaction back from that. Now, most people have looked at some of these signature panels from the perspective of just executing their client retainer and getting their client to sign up to stuff, but we've been interested in trying to push that a little bit further. So just as an example of other areas that we try to use these signatures in, this is a dummy one that I've amended a bit. This is a consent order, and very simply, our litigation team were able to execute these documents in the last couple of weeks, and they've taken this consent order, and we've just same sort of thing, added in a couple of signature panels in here that otherwise we would have to deal with some kind of witnessing over some sort of Skype call or something like that to get these jobs done. We tend to find that a lot of the litigation arrangements where they're signed by the law firms on either side, that you can actually use e-signature for this kind of stuff because they don't require any witnessing of the documents. And the final one I was going to show you by way of example of where you can do something more sophisticated in these is the last document we have. So in here, I'm trying to solve a particular problem with getting my client to sign and agree our terms for our retainer, not using any print or post, dealing with the problems of cybersecurity of issuing our bank details, and then similarly collecting our client's bank details for source of funds analysis. And again, if we need to make any payments for stopping any cybersecurity problems with that. So we're really looking to wrap up the key elements of signing our retainer and dealing with securely giving our bank details to the client, and vice versa, the client securely giving their bank details to us for us to check. So although this is the same kind of client care and it doesn't look too pretty, it's just to try and demonstrate all on one screen what we can do. So I've put the same coding in over here that we had before. I'll just reverse that out. And what I've done down the bottom here is I've put in an extra pane with the anti-money laundering and source of funds detail, and I've created some custom fields, one called bank account and one called sort code. And then just as an additional demonstration of what we can do, I've put in an element that I can embed in the form and run through Adobe eSign, which will prompt the client to upload a piece of evidence to corroborate those bank details that they've given me. So I'll try and run those now. What I'm going to do this time is I'm also going to include and wrap up into the signed document. So I'm looking to receive one document with everything in it by the end of this process we're going to run. So I have another document called client account details. Noticing these, I've obscured them for the purposes of the video, but this is our client account details. So I'm going to group these two together, run them through PDF Manager Wizard. Oh, I need to go back and I need to amalgamate those, sorry. And I'm going to run this as a two-stage process. So first of all, I'm going to produce a PDF. I've lost my PDF, Alex.
I think it's just that bottom one there. It's just named it as that client account. So
Yeah.
that should be your one. Yeah.
Let's just double check that. Yeah. So I've produced my document, or two joined documents together. And then I'm going to upload those to Adobe eSign. Choose my same client again. So my client's Ben Harold again. Please sign these and details. Then if I come out of this, back in Gmail, my client should hopefully get something in a minute. Typically never when I want it to go quickly.
Seems like a lifetime when you
There we go. So this
seconds.
is the same thing for the client, but a more sophisticated version. So when they review and sign, if it works okay, you get a message from me this time because I bothered to write a personal message in there. I'm going to sign as before. I suppose I should have signed. Ben Harold. Go down here. I can put in a bank account detail. So it's going to be 8 digits and then sort code. And hopefully, when I click on this, it's going to send me an upload link. And on my desktop, I have a copy of my bank statement. Once I've uploaded that file, I can then click to sign. And then that's all done. So in a minute or so, now I've got that back. So from a client's perspective, I can have a look at the completed agreement. I can see all of the appropriate signature information. And then we would like the client to obviously refer back to this at any point. So here's my bank account detail. So we would expect the client not to get any bank account information from anywhere else. And then here's the bank statement that we've uploaded. So back when we come into Terminal Server and back into Partner, let's do an update on that. I've now received back the completed document. Let's just move it over a bit. There we go, signed. And so both I and the client have a completely secured, encrypted document, signing the retainer, and scroll down, and providing the bank account details that I need, copy of our bank account details, and then evidence to corroborate those bank account details. So that's all been scooped up in one Adobe e-sign process. It's probably worth pointing out, because I think there's always lots of questions on costings, that the e-sign process doesn't matter how many signatories or people you have involved in it. It's usually classed as what they call one envelope. So it doesn't matter whether 3 people signing, it still incurs the same cost, or whether it's just a one. Similarly, I've done 3 different jobs, and I've tried to wrap these up into one e-sign process to get all of my retainer and source of funds kind of bank communication out of the way in one hit. So therefore, that's only cost me the price of one e-sign. That's probably all we needed to do for a 10-minute video.
Yeah,
anything else you want to add, Alex?
Yeah, I suppose just saying, hopefully that's demonstrated how useful and I suppose how powerful Adobe Sign can be, especially I think more so on your latter example there, where, as you said, you've combined 3 jobs into one, and you know that also includes, I suppose, risk mitigation there, as you're saying, the ability for the client to put in their bank account details. You know, you are securely sending your bank account details to the client. You know, so you are ultimately, as you're saying, reducing the need for those further processes later down the line or case progression. That you can say at the very beginning, from the outset, that everything is secure. You've got the client's signature, so it's legally valid. And all through hopefully a click of a button, essentially. And also, as you said, the ability to have a template that mirrors both processes, so it doesn't matter which way it goes, because obviously you might have clients that still are very paper-based, or those that have email addresses and are electronic, that it doesn't matter which way you go down, that you can choose, dependent on the case, of whether Adobe Sign is appropriate or whether it is the traditional method. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful for everyone. As Jamie said, we will send out additional collateral with that, as well as the link on YouTube that we mentioned that will go through from a user case of how to use the integration.
Yeah, so just finally, I mean, what makes it a lot easier to implement is if you don't have to have too many choices for your users. So you can embed this stuff into your documents, and it doesn't matter whether that, and you could have quite a lot of people to train in how to use this. They can either carry on using it the way they were before, or they can adapt it to this, and it makes a little difference. I think after a while, most firms will build up a pattern or questions and answers structure for what kind of signature pane they'd want to use. Typically as a one person, two person, or single director, two directors, etc. But you can see from things like the consent order that once you're actually in some areas with pieces of contentious work, you tend to be signing, the firm signs these documents on behalf of the clients because they have their consent to do so. That can actually that's actually quite easy. I think the usual question that comes up on e-signing all the time, which is more of a legal question, is about the law aspects of witnessing. That's clearly still a gap, and until the law changes on the witnessing angle, I think it's just a wait and see as to how we get around that problem. Although some people are adapting in the current situation where people are working from home to do some aspects of this kind of witnessing using video conferencing, etc. at the same time.
There you go. Thank you very much.